Hey, guitar players, today I wanted to take some time to talk about technique, the growing of it, and the maintaining of it. For myself, I've been chasing the technique of players like Joe Satriani and Steve Vai and Guthrie Govan for years now, and it's sort of turned into an obsession, which on one hand can be very exciting, and on the other, maybe kind of detrimental because there's a lot of other things to be focusing on. And one of the most common questions I get as a teacher is, how can you structure a good practice routine? How do you know how much time to spend on each particular thing? And that's a tough answer, but where I always kind of turn the tables and ask a question is, well, what are you currently happy with, and what would you like to improve? And that usually gives you some chorus to start where you can use an outcome-based decision. You'll decide, well, my sweeping is just not what it should be, or whatever it happens to be, and that should be the first item in your routine. So let's go through some things that you can use to come up with a tidier, more efficient training program. I remember sometime in my early guitar playing days, I came across this article. It was Steve Vai's 10-hour guitar workout, and it's something of a legendary practice routine at this point. But it kind of scared me on one hand. I was like, 10 hours? How in the heck am I going to find that much time to practice? I'll never be a good guitar player. But I quickly realized, luckily, that it doesn't take 10 hours to grow your technique. Instead, it just takes a real particular focus on whatever it is you're trying to do. So whenever I start a training routine for technique, I always start with something pretty simple to get both my left and right hand moving together, synced up. So something like a 1, 2, 3, 4 permutation. So what I'm talking about is a chromatic passage. But I like to switch it up each string. So I'll do 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'll go 2, 3, 4, 1. 3, 4, 1, 2. And then 4, 1, 2, 3. And then maybe I'll start over. So the whole thing would sound like this. And you can carry that on until you get tired, but I recommend that you stop after about a minute or so. We're just trying to get some blood into the hands, get some warmth there before we go on to crazier stuff. So once you got a little warmth going in the hands, you can decide whether you want to pursue more right-handed technique or left-handed technique. A great way to go after the left hand is to start with trills. These are always a good exercise to come back to no matter what your level of guitar playing. These days I like to switch off between doing low strings and high strings, and also playing down low and playing up high. So you might start around the 12th fret, and what I do is I set my metronome at a fairly slow tempo, like 60, 70, and I'm going to do about 2 measures of trills between each finger. So it's important to note that just like a fitness routine, you don't go into an exercise and just do it nonstop. What I found works the best for me is to do it in sets. So sets could be based on measures. They could be based on seconds. Either way, you want to give yourself some time to perform and some time to rest. So in between, for maximum efficiency, if you're doing something like trills that's really left-hand based, switch over and start working on some alternate picking while this hand rests. So a good way you can do that with minimal left hand is to start doing some open string work. So maybe something in a scale. It sounds pretty simple, but again, we're trying to build a foundation here, and we're not trying to get too crazy too quickly. So once you're ready to step it up a little bit in the right hand, I recommend thinking about, where do you find the most awkwardness when you're picking? For most guitar players, it's going to be changing strings at some point. They can pick pretty good. They can do pretty good on one string, but when they're changing the strings, that can be where problems occur. And there's 2 reasons for that. Number one, something we call inside picking, where we get the pick going maybe from a downstroke on one string to an upstroke on another, and you actually find your pick stuck in between the strings. That's an awkward one for most guitar players. And then there's the other one, which is outside picking. So if I came from a downstroke on the B string and go down to the E string, I'd be coming with an upstroke outside of the strings instead of trapped in the middle between the two. So I think the best way to handle this in the beginning is to use the old Paul Gilbert standby guitar lick that works on this. And it's going to be going between, I'll just pick the fifth position here. I'm going to start on the E note on the fifth fret of the B string with a downstroke. And I'm going to come backwards 7, 5, 4, and then back the way I came on the third string. So it's going to go 5, 7 on the third string with an upstroke, down to 5, down to 4, back up to 5, back up to 7. So I'm playing those as triplets. Accenting the first note. And that's really drilling that one mechanic that I'm having a difficult time with, which is that inside picking. Now, if you want to turn this around, maybe if that's easy for you or you're just ready to move on, try starting that exercise with an upstroke, or even starting this way where you're going to start on the fourth fret of the third string and you're going to play up the same way. So it's going to go 4, 5, 7 on the third string. And then you're going to come up stroke on the fifth fret of the second string and then back the way you came. Continuing with some more ideas for the right hand, I picked up this concept from John Petrucci, and it's a really good one for getting a little bit more stamina in your picking hand and developing more and more speed where you can kind of burst through those plateaus. And the idea is, again, to make another parallel into fitness, it's like you're going to jog for a little bit and then you're going to sprint for a little bit. So starting with a pentatonic idea, let's do B minor today. I'm going to do a 4-note pattern. So 1 E and then maybe I'll do that for 3 beats. And then on the fourth beat, I'm going to step it up and I'm going to go up to a 16th note triplet, which is going to sound like this. So all together. So it's a fun way to just get a little extra speed going, and you can almost just trick yourself into playing faster with enough of this style of practice. Okay, let's shift it back over to the left hand for a second. We did some trills earlier. Now we're going to step it up. We're just going to work on stretching out the fingers a little bit and playing a spacing of every other fret. So because there's 3, we'll feel them as triplets. So I'm not playing a scale there. I'm just trying to get a good feel for the left hand and also stretch it out. So higher up on the frets, it's going to be more of an accuracy challenge. As we go lower, it's going to be accuracy plus stretching out the fingers. Great thing to work on because it's all going to affect everything. And you might be training the left hand or the right hand, but we're playing usually with both at some point, so you might discover by working on some of these areas, surprisingly, you're noticing, when you pick, it's a little easier, it's sounding a little bit smoother. So working from a holistic standpoint is the best way to go here. Next thing we'll do for the left hand is to do a sequence of 7 notes. This is almost kind of a similar lick to Joe Satriani, what he played at the very tail end of the Flying in a Blue Dream solo. So if I was to play that in C Lydian, it might sound like this. So sounds kind of crazy, but really it's just going 7 on a string. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we go on to the next fragment of the scale. So essentially, we're just playing up, down, and up on each string. So up, down, back up, then on to the next part of the scale, which is going to be on the 5th string. So just 7 notes in a single quarter note, and that's where it gets a little bit tricky. Sometimes just going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 can freak you out. It's an odd number. It's weird to count. You might choose to break it up or subdivide in like a 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. That's a little easier to manage as you're playing over a click. So start very slow. Back around to the right hand, we're going to focus on the sweep picking technique for a moment. A really great way to do that is to use fifth arpeggios. Fifth arpeggios, it's just going to be a root, a fifth, an octave, and another fifth. So I'll play this in off of a D root. So just going up and back in a 4-note sequence. I'm thinking 16ths there. As you work up through your range of tempo, might be a good idea to just start in 8th notes if you're new to this. That'll give you a real strong foundation, and then you can say something like this. You may start at 60, 70, work your way up to about 160. When you can do that, bring it back down, start playing 16th notes, work it back up in tempo, and then go back down and start playing 32nd notes. This is a type of a technique that grows pretty quickly. So once you can do it controlled, and you're controlling your dynamics and your note division, you're getting that unevenness, then you're going to find that things are pretty easy. So if you can go at 120, you could probably go at 160 or 80. One more thing for the right hand I really want to address because it's so difficult is crossing the strings from low to high when you go all the way from string 6 to string 1. So this is sort of a Steve Morse inspired arpeggiation technique. So what I'm going to do is to play a D major arpeggio. Looks just like a bar shape here. And I'm alternate picking that all the way through. So check this out. We'll do a major shape this way, and then we're going to do an inversion of a major, so it'll be like a 1-5 progression. My next chord will be A major in first inversion. And I'm going to go 9 on the E, 12 on the A, 11 on the D, 9 on the G, 10 on the B, 9 on the E, up to 12 on the E, and back. So the second one will sound like this. So I'm thinking triplets or 16-note triplets for this exercise, back and forth. So we got a pretty good amount of stuff on the table. And if we keep adding to it, we run the risk of practicing too much or maybe even stressing our hands out to the point where we're starting to feel fatigue set in. There's a lot of factors that go into this, but let me just say that you don't need to do all of this stuff. It's not about the kitchen sink. It's about finding what you need. So where are your gaps? Where are you feeling like your technique is flawed or maybe just not flowing like you would like it to? And that's how you're going to pick some of these exercises out. What I recommend, take anywhere from 2 to 4 exercises a day and really focus in on them. This could take anywhere from 10 minutes all the way up to an hour. I think that would be kind of pushing it, but you'll get some really good results if you hyper focus on a few things. So throughout your week, you might choose to have 3 different routines. So maybe something like we did today. You can choose some of these. You can add, if you feel you're missing something, add something in. If you have a favorite exercise, by all means. Just don't do the same thing every single day. I think you'll grow faster. And definitely in my experience, I've always upped my technique game faster by adding more variety. So 3 days is a good thing to shoot for. Just like a fitness routine, you don't just go into the gym and do bench press, I hope. Hopefully you're spreading it out through your body. And just like us guitar players, we want to spread it out in the left hand, the right hand, there's other things to think about, other techniques, tapping and tapped arpeggios and harmonics, all kinds of things. So if you're running short on ideas, let me know in the comments below. And also let me know if you need help with a particular guitar technique, or if I just didn't get into enough detail for you. Be happy to take another look at this stuff. Let me know how it goes. I'm looking forward to hearing from you and seeing y'all again next week. Thanks for being here.